My friends, welcome back to this channel. I didn't have no idea that I'm gonna do a video today, but because I found something that I want to share with you, I said why not? On this beautiful music of my friend David Lastra, Our Father, deep meditation, deep instrumental Christian meditation music. On this music I want to speak to you about something that happened a few days ago. Jonathan Roumie was awarded, as you remember if you have seen my channel, by Azusa Pacific University, the 2024 Inspirational Artist Award. At the time I had no video, just some pictures, and I promised that time that if I find any video, I'm gonna share with you. Now I have video from the channel of Azusa Pacific University. There's a big interview there with Jonathan. But what I'm gonna do, because I want you guys to visit this channel, as I have this video from them, I'm not gonna post the interview in its complete. Complete. No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna post some parts of it, and the rest, hopefully, if you want to see it all, why not to see all the event, go and visit this channel, as you see here, Azusa Pacific University. I'm gonna link on the description as well, so you go and visit them. They deserve it. After all, they are the ones that give the opportunity to Jonathan to outreach, and there were plenty of people there listening. So why not? Let's do this, shall we? Let's watch it. As I said, this is a big interview. It's about 29 minutes, but I'm gonna post about, let's see, I don't know, 24 minutes from it. Okay. Okay, about 20, roughly 24 minutes from it. If you want to see it all you need to do is to go and watch the video, all of it, on the main channel, the channel where I took this interview from, the channel that kindly I'm so grateful, and I'm advertising them here. Thank you, Azusa Pacific University, for what you've done. And as I said, I'm advertising you, and hopefully my subscribers will see you, and why not going to click the subscribe button, not just to watch. So, without further ado, 3, 2, 1, go.
Your depiction of Jesus in The Chosen is resonating obviously deeply with audiences. Your portrayal allows us to experience Christ's humanity as well as his deity. Can you elaborate on how you prepared for the role, more specifically how you found the balance, or not, of playing Jesus both as God and as man?
Yes, so obviously I cannot contribute anything in the realms of what it's like to be divine or to even know the mind of God, so I sort of leave that off the table completely. What I can express and what I can contribute to in the development of a character, of the character of Jesus in this case, is what it's like to be human. What it's like to suffer, what it's like to go through pain, what it's like to laugh, to dance at weddings, to do all the things, the human things, the very human things that we portray Jesus doing in The Chosen that people really haven't seen, or filmmakers haven't really tackled before in the depth that we endeavor to portray Jesus. So, I think the work that I do in preparation for every season begins for me, first and foremost with prayer. Everything in my life is centered around prayer and my relationship to Christ. And without that, I would be like directionless. It would be like having a compass and it keeps spinning. It just doesn't know where a magnetic north is. So Christ has become my compass, and for everything that I do, especially with The Chosen, but even for projects outside of The Chosen, I'm always bringing everything to prayer in hopes that if it's something that I meant to do, that it's going to glorify God in some way, even if it's not necessarily an outwardly biblical, subject like The Chosen, or even to a lesser degree, Jesus Revolution. So I think for me, that was how all of it began and continues throughout every season.
Yeah, and I saw in some of the interviews that you did, and it was just a profound comment you made that, the actors in the past that have played Jesus have 2 hours, and yet we're getting this 6 seasons with this character, and to the point where, 7?
7 seasons.
7 seasons now, yeah! Woo! That's cool. That's really cool.
Anybody been to season 4 in the theaters yet? All right. Well, for all the rest of you, you better go. So,
Moving on to the wonderful aspect of humor in The Chosen. Your portrayal of Jesus incorporates these moments of quick-witted responses, relatable interactions, adding this authenticity to the storytelling. So, shed light for us on whether humor is intentional in the writing, and do you and your fellow castmates find these moments organically on set?
I think everything starts with the script, so it's all sort of structured out for us, and then, film is a collaborative art, right? So you have what the director has intended, what the writers have intended, how the director interprets what the writers have intended, and then you bring it to the actors. You have live actors, and every so often we'll be like, I got a brilliant idea, how about this? And sometimes it'll be met with, no, let's stick to the script. Okay, and you're like, okay, I'm just shut my mouth and move on. And other times it's like, that's really funny, why don't we do that? I mean, oftentimes that only happens in the series with moments of humor and comedy. So there have been a number of ad-libs throughout the seasons that I can only speak for myself, that I've had the opportunity to do, and they've stayed in the series, which is kind of fun. For instance, in the first season, Jesus heals a man with leprosy, and we put a new robe on him, and it's this beautiful green robe, and I kind of take a step back and look at him now healed from leprosy with these new clothes, and I say, not too shabby. And that was something my dad would say to me, so I just kind of came out with it, and they left it. I'm like, okay, all right. So it's sort of, what it's helped to do is kind of really make Jesus relatable to a modern audience, because there's sort of modern vernacular, but it doesn't violate the time period to an extent where you're like, I'll never watch this. It makes it, I think, accessible, which I think has been part of the overall global success of the show.
Yeah, I would agree. In fact, I got hooked. We showed the first video where you're asking them to follow you, and the fish pull the boat over, and we have a cut to you, and you give them a look like I told you so. And that, for me, was when I was in. I knew we were in for a special treat, that this was going to be an interesting production and journey. So just fantastic.
Thank you.
Given the profound nature of the role, your role as Jesus, how has your personal relationship with Christ deepened through the portrayal, considering the weight and, I would imagine, the responsibility that comes with playing a role like that?
So for me, having spent so much time with the character and the person of Jesus, not just in our scripts, but in my prayer life, it's become this symbiotic dependency on Christ in all things, in that I need to be able to understand. I need to spend more time with him to understand him more, whether it's outside of the script in my own personal life, you know, reading the Bible or going to Mass or whatever, or it's in the script itself. So I need to spend more time with him to better understand him, and the better I understand him, the more I want to spend time with him, if that makes sense. And I think that's a beautiful thing to have happen as an actor, because I can't say that about every character that I played. Years ago, I did a movie where I played John Wilkes Booth in a film about Lincoln, and it was called Saving Lincoln. It was really about Lincoln's bodyguard, this guy Ward Lamon Hill, who essentially prevented so many threats to Lincoln's person that people didn't know until I think he wrote his story or something like that years ago, a century ago, and so I played. It's a very small part, John Wilkes Booth, and while I wanted to learn and read up as much as I could about John Wilkes Booth and find the righteousness in his character as to why he did what he did, what would cause a man to want to or attempt to assassinate the President of the United States. In his mind, he thought he was defending freedom. He thought he was defending, you know, the human spirit, the right to exist. He thought he was defending the South. He did it for all the right reasons in his mind. People around him convinced him that was somebody had to do something about this Lincoln guy, and he's like, I guess that's me, you know. And so he took it upon himself to do that. And then when he did it, those same people were like, can you believe somebody did this to Lincoln? Like somebody actually, like people suggested, well, somebody should take him out. And he did it, and then all of a sudden the script was flipped on him, and he was confused because he just thought he was doing what was right. So all that to say, I didn't want to spend more time with the character of John Wilkes Booth in between, you know, filming sessions, after I let the film go. Years later, I'm surprised I even remember the details that I do now, because it's not something that, you know, and he was a different character. But with Jesus, it's different. And I'm both sad and relieved that there are only 3 more seasons to film. Sad in that I've gotten to spend so much time with him in a way that I wouldn't get to do it ordinarily. And then relieved because it can be a lot. It can be a lot for other people to kind of have those expectations, and when they meet you, or just even people calling you Jesus, I'm like, Jonathan, but I know what you meant. I know what you meant, though. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So in my preparation for today's interview, I came across this compelling video featuring you and a group of Gen Z. In the footage, you share this pivotal moment in your life as a struggling artist. Considering we have a significant presence of Gen Z in the audience today, do you mind sharing that transformative moment with us?
Sure. So I had been actively pursuing trying to make a living as an actor for about 20 years. And I started in production. I worked as I was an intern for Saturday Night Live for about a year, my last year of college, which was amazing. And then I came out of college with a degree in film production. And the thing about art school, you don't necessarily, and I don't quite know the depth of the programs here, but in the school I went to, if you trained as an artist, you weren't quite trained in the practicality of what to do when you got out and how to sustain yourself in an artistic way. You were essentially taught how to be the best possible artist you can be. And then everybody gets out into the world and you're like, oh crumbs, I need a job. What do I do? So a buddy of mine was connected and got me a job as a PA, as a production assistant. So I started as a PA, and I went from production to art department for 2 years. I was a set decorator, and then I found the locations department. I became a location scout and then a location manager. Almost from the beginning of that journey in production, I had this thing inside that I felt was kind of calling me to perform, specifically for voiceover. I was really a reticent and shy and introverted young man, and I'm still introverted to a great extent even today. But then I was like, you couldn't put me on a camera and find any level of comfort whatsoever. I'm like, no, I'll be the voice off camera. That's, I think, what I'm gonna do. So I started trying to get into voiceover. And I took some classes, and I got trained, and I found a mentor, and he helped me get an agent, and I started auditioning for commercials and you know, audio commercials, like voiceover commercials and all this other stuff. And then I ended up doing, my first acting job was 3 seasons on this animated show called Celebrity Deathmatch. I don't know if it's kind of a cult thing. Look it up. It's these clay animated celebrities of the day. It was like current events. So, you know, imagine like Taylor Swift fighting, you know, Doja Cat in a ring to the death, but they're made of clay. So you needed people who could sound like those celebrities, and I happen to be able to do that. I have that skill. And so I thought, okay, well, so I wrote a letter to the casting director. She sent me a response and I said, hey, look, I can do impressions. Can I audition for the show? And she said, oh, okay, all right, call this phone number, this hotline, leave your best 30 seconds or a minute for your best impression. And if you're any good, we'll excuse me, if you're any good, we'll audition you. I said, oh, great. So I called and I did an impression of I think it was Marlon Brando probably at the time, and like about a couple of weeks later, she's like, hey, I'm going to start sending you auditions. And so I started auditioning, and eventually I started booking the job. And so I thought, oh, okay, my foot's in the door. 2 years later, 3 seasons after I did that show, she said, hey, I have an on-camera audition for the Video Music Awards. Are you interested in on-camera? And so I had a little confidence under my belt. I said, yeah, I'll give it a try. And I went and I auditioned, and they're like, okay, just here, you know, so those lines, a couple of lines, whatever. And you had to improvise some stuff, and I was pretty quick on my feet. And then like the kicker was in the audition was like, okay, now we're just going to put on some music and just show us your dance moves.
Will you do that now?
I said, what? Yeah, we're going to put some music on here and just show us what you got. Okay. Okay, thanks so much. We'll call you. Okay, bye. And then I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And I realized that is the worst possible way to ever have to interview for a job in the history of job interviews. And I booked it. I was confused. For days, I was confused. I'm like, God, what are you doing to me here? What does this mean? So, fast forward a little bit. I got some commercials under my belt. 2008, the housing market collapses. I decide, you know what? This is time for a reset. I'm going to go where everything is generated, where the industry is founded, essentially, which is Los Angeles, and see if I really have what it takes to make a living at this. So I moved in 2010. I finally moved. And in the first year, I blew through my savings. I was almost completely broke, aside from the work that I was doing. Now, I couldn't depend on my day job, because in New York, if you're a location scout, well, for a couple of reasons. If you're a location scout or a location manager in New York, that's under one jurisdiction, one union. In Los Angeles, it's a completely different union. And so I would have to start from the bottom again just to get to that point, to do the thing that I left New York to do, you know, I left New York for. I left that behind to try to make it as an actor, not to go back into production, but I needed to work. So I started doing everything I could possibly think of. I started coaching voiceover. I started teaching coaching auditions. I painted houses. I drove for rideshare. I worked as a grip for anybody in the film department that knows what that is. Basically, anybody who sets these grips, give it up. Setting up the equipment that carries all the lights. That's what the grips do. I gripped. There's about 6 or 7 different gigs that I cobbled together. I started catering. I'd never catered or waited tables a day in my life, and I was bad at it. But I needed to make money, and so I did that for several years. And so 8 years into Los Angeles, I found myself, I woke up one morning in May in 2018, and I was $80 overdraft. I had $20 cash in my pocket. I had been paying rent on like credit cards. I was thousands and thousands of dollars in debt. I had all my credit cards that the limits were just chopped to almost nothing. A couple of cards, they're like, no, we're just, you can't use this one anymore. I'm like, wait a minute. I had applied for unemployment. I ran out of government assistance. And I was just, I was in a really bad spot. I started to truly panic. The anxiety that set in was astronomical. Because I also didn't have enough food for the next day. I had enough food for today, and then $20 to figure out how to eat, like, going forward. And so I panicked for a minute. And then it hit me. The only thing left that I could do, that I hadn't done, was get to my knees, stare up at my crucifix, and just pour my heart out to God. And I said, God, you put me here. I don't know why I'm here in this position, but I trust you. And you never go back on your word, and you're always faithful. So what I'm going to do now is completely surrender my situation, my life, my career, completely to you. Jesus, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything. And I left my house with a weight lifted off of my shoulders. Because I had never experienced that level of anxiety. And then having immediately surrendered it completely and totally and wholly, to have it really just lift off of my shoulders and feel like I was walking on a cloud, because I knew it's not my problem. Yeah. It's his problem now. And so I went and I spent that $20 probably on a nice fat brunch. And, kind of like here's my last meal. Better make it a good one. And I came back to my apartment, and I thought, well, I wonder what's going to happen next. Who knows? I have no idea, but I'm not even remotely concerned. I went to my mailbox. I opened the mailbox, and there were 4 checks staring me in the face. And I'm like looking at them, I'm like, okay. So I took them upstairs to my apartment. And you can imagine the just disbelief from 2 hours earlier. And I thought to myself, I gotta record this, because I don't know if this is actually real, so I want to be able to record it on my phone and then watch it back so I know this is actually happening and I'm not like hallucinating. So I set up my phone on my bed. I sat on my bed, and I opened the first check, and it was $50, and I was beside myself.
Yeah.
And then I opened the next check, and it was like $200. And I was like, what? And like the third check was $800. At the end of that, I had $1,100. And I wept. I wept at the goodness of God. I wept at the mercy of God, at the faithfulness of God. Give it up for God.
Wow, John.
Friends, that was a big chunk of the interview. For all of it, go and visit and subscribe to the channel of Azusa University. And all I want to tell you is that there is grace for everyone there at the throne of grace, Jesus. And the world doesn't need a religion. As I said many times, the world doesn't need a Christian or non-Christian denomination. The world needs Jesus. When we bring denominations, we bring division. When we bring Jesus, we bring unity. Because Jesus is the one that died for us on the cross. I said that many times. It's not a church, it's not a group, it's not a guru, it's not a pastor, it's not a religious leader, it's Jesus, the Son of God. He there on the cross bled and died. He felt deserted. That perfect unity that lasted for eternity and eternity, forevermore, was broken. And the moment in which all the sin, all the misery, all the abomination of humanity was laid upon him. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Jesus raised his voice to the Father in anguish and in pain. All that for us. My God, why have you forsaken me? Maybe many times here in this broken reality we felt forsaken as well, but there's nothing. The worst forsakenness, if you allow me to put it this way, that we might have felt at a certain time in our life, there's nothing comparing with what Jesus felt that day on the cross, the day in which he opened wide the gates of heaven for us. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you. See you soon.